Standing by now with Derek Wills. 3-2 your final in this inter-squad game in Grimsby. All right, Derek, your thoughts on the game. Of course, it is technically still training camp, but still a lot of great action out there.
Absolutely. I thought it was a pretty entertaining game for the fans here. It was a 1-0 lead for the red team, and then 1-1, and then 2-1 red, and then Team White tied it up for a second time. And then with 30 seconds left in the third period, Team White takes the lead for good on a goal by Andre Morissette, who converts a 2-on-1 pass from STEPHAN. So great way to finish off the game. And then for a little added bonus, they did a shootout afterwards. So I think the fans got their $5 worth tonight.
Were there any standouts for you in this game?
One guy who stood out from the start of camp is LEBEAU. Here's a guy who's had some ups and downs during his professional career, but he's got all the tools. He's got size, speed, skill, and toughness. And what team couldn't use a guy like LEBEAU if he brings all of those attributes to the table? So he's a guy who's really interesting for me, and he's played some games in the National Hockey League, and I think the Hamilton Bulldogs are going to give him a long look as he tries to earn a job here in the American Hockey League. So he's definitely a guy who stood out for me. The goaltenders to this point have been terrific, especially the tandem of Dustin Tokarski and Robert Meyer from last year. Tokarski still on his way down to the Hamilton Bulldogs, but Robert Meyer has looked good, and Peter Dalmasou is probably the number 3 goaltender in the Hamilton Bulldogs system. He's looked good as well, so it's been good to see some of the guys from last year look good, and some of the newcomers as well.
Something you had mentioned before for our fans who follow you on Twitter, they already know this. Something this team definitely has that they didn't have last year is a lot of depth. Despite being a young team, maybe a combination, they have a lot of depth, and that's going to go a long way.
Absolutely. There are a lot of high-profile guys who don't have contracts right now, and a number of them are at training camp with the Hamilton Bulldogs. I mentioned LEBEAU, a guy who played some games with the Calgary Flames last year, Kelsey Wilson, Nathan McKeever. These are guys who are proven American Hockey League players, and one guy who I was really shocked to see without a contract was Matt Lashaw. And I think that the one area where the Hamilton Bulldogs could use some help is getting some more experience on that back end. So a guy like Matt Lashaw, who's played in the AHL and the NHL, I think would be a good fit, but he's got some competition, and there's going to be a lot more depth in the system, and that certainly is a good thing for the Hamilton Bulldogs. It'll be a good thing for the Wheeling Nailers as well. If the Dogs end up getting some injuries or the Habs call some guys up, there are going to be some guys in the system, but right now these guys are battling for a spot on this roster, and training camp's been intense. The practices, the scrimmages, tonight's intra-squad game, it's been good to see a high level of competition, and I'm sure it's going to continue in the preseason games this weekend.
All right, thank you very much, Derek. Speaking of those preseason games, I guess we'll see you there on Friday night in Oakville when the Bulldogs take on the Marlies.
Round 1 of the American Hockey League's Battle of Ontario for this season. It's a preseason game. Should be a beauty between the Bulldogs and Marlies, though.
All right, thank you very much, and we'll see what our coaches had to say about this one.
Well, I thought the White played a bad first period, but they were able to bounce back in the second and third period. Obviously, we were not skating at the beginning of the game. We were a little bit tentative. We saw that perhaps the guys were a little bit tired tonight, both teams. But at the end, still it was a good hockey game, and I hope the fans enjoy it. Yeah, they've been working very hard. Obviously, it's the third day of the training camp, and third day normally it's pretty difficult. They have some practices, some off-ice training. But again, it's part of the training camp, and players needs to be ready to face that kind of situation. Well, it's a work in process, so you have to be good every day in our business. So it's not only to be good one period or one game. So this is what we're looking for. Who's going to continue to do good things on the ice for us, and at the end, we hope they're going to make our job difficult, because right now we feel that the competition is very strong at the camp, and it makes our job even tougher. So this is what we like as coaches.